Hello and welcome. If you're watching this video, you're either a client of mine with an upcoming appointment, or you're simply somebody from the internet who randomly found me and might be interested in learning a little bit more about how your brain works. Either way, I'm excited to share this information with you. But first, I want to tell you just a little bit about my story and how I came to do this work. And if you're not a fan of terrifying origin stories, you might want to just go ahead and skip ahead 3 to 4 minutes and just jump into the meat of the lesson. So my name is Laura Dugovic, and I've been married now for over 20 years. My husband and I have 2 boys and a golden retriever named Kevin and a bearded dragon named Janet. I'm a certified hypnotist and eye movement processing facilitator, as well as a meditation teacher and thought work specialist. And on January 1st of 2020, I had an allergic reaction to an injection and went into shock. The 6 days that followed were some of the scariest and most painful of my entire life. My mouth was like cotton. I couldn't chew or swallow food. I couldn't even sit down, let alone sleep. I spent all day and night pacing and shaking and panicking. My nervous system was in chaos and we had no idea what to do. Our insurance had just lapsed, and I refused to get into the car to go to the ER because I didn't want the $15,000 medical bill that would come with it. I lost 25 pounds in that first week alone. After that first terrifying week, we were able to get in to see a doctor, and with the help of sleep medication, I was able to sleep for the first time in a week. And I thought I was through the worst of it, and I had never been so relieved and grateful in my entire life. I was back to normal for about 2 weeks. Then, one day, I triggered into a massive panic attack, and my whole body went numb. In the weeks and months that followed, I spiraled into a painful trauma cycle. As many of you may already know, surviving a medical crisis can cause severe nervous system dysregulation and trauma, and it rocked my world. I would spend hours working to calm my body down enough to fall asleep, only to be jolted awake 20 minutes later in a complete panic. My best friend flew in to stay for a week to help care for me around the clock. I experienced time loss, dissociation, and was in constant distress. My mind was plagued with thoughts that I couldn't go on living like this, and that my husband and sons would be better off without me. In tears, I finally warned my husband that I couldn't be trusted to be left alone. I began taking several medications in hope of controlling these unpredictable and painful symptoms. Unfortunately, those medications lowered my already low blood pressure, and on February 26th, the first time my husband had gone to work in 7 weeks, I fainted while walking to the bathroom and broke my wrist on the tile floor. I had never struggled with high levels of anxiety or panic before, but now I was living in a constant state of fear and pain. By the end of March, my hair was falling out in handfuls. I had lost the ability to drive and was agoraphobic to the point where not only could I not leave the house, but I struggled to even leave my bedroom. I also experienced health anxiety and hypochondria. I had constant intrusive thoughts about having a brain aneurysm, cancer, or a heart attack. But that was mostly due to the fact that I had a racing heart pretty much all day, every day. My heart physically hurt for months. I developed a fear of taking medication of any kind and constantly worried about taking the wrong combinations of medications. I was also scared of taking anything new for fear that I would have another allergic reaction. I began experiencing time loss and my short-term memory was failing. My husband had to take over the task of administering all of my prescription medications to prevent me from overdosing by accidentally taking 2 doses of the same thing back to back. I couldn't watch TV, movies, or even scroll social media for fear that I would see a trigger that would send my system into a panic cycle that would last hours and sometimes even an entire night. My world got smaller and smaller, and I didn't see any way out. I was mentally gearing up for life as a homebound invalid. My husband searched high and low and was able to find and adopt a golden retriever to be my emotional support dog. This is Kevin, and he's pretty much the best. As I said, my hair had been falling out in handfuls, and you can imagine how well that went over with my anxiety, and it was truly heartbreaking. I decided to cut what was left of my dry, thinning hair into a pixie cut and did my best to make peace with my situation, but the panic attacks and sleepless nights kept coming. And while Kevin absolutely brought me some much-needed comfort, it had been 6 months since this all began, and I was weary, exhausted, and longing for real solutions. Then something happened that changed everything for me. A family friend reached out to my husband and told him about a woman that, in his words, had completely saved his life. She had been working with clients here in Arizona for over 30 years, and after just a few sessions with her, our friend had overcome some serious mental and physical health challenges. She had a pretty substantial wait list for an appointment, but we got on her emergency cancellation list and crossed our fingers. Once I started working with her, the progress came swift and steady. Within 2 sessions, I was sleeping through the night. After 3 sessions, I was able to drive again. And by my 6th session, I was firmly back in what I call the seat of my soul. To say I was relieved would be the understatement of the century. After my 7th session, I made the decision to wean off of all of my prescriptions with the knowledge and oversight of my doctor, of course. And day by day, I slowly came home to myself. It was an incredible feeling. And I can honestly say not a day goes by where I don't feel deep gratitude for the ability to chew, swallow, sleep, drive a car, or even be able to simply sit still and watch a movie with my family. And for those of you who are wondering, and I get this question a lot, yes, my hair grew back in, strong and healthy. Bodies are incredible. I was later invited to train and certify under this amazing facilitator, and I gratefully accepted and have never looked back. After training and certifying directly under this mentor, I began taking clients of my own, and it has been such a privilege to be part of the healing journey of so many others. This method worked for me, it works for my clients, and it can work for you too. This method is science-based and evidence-backed, and I'm excited to share more of that science with you now, so let's get started. First off, there are 3 things to know about your brain. First, your brain has built-in programs. The vast majority of your subconscious programs were created between the ages of 0 and 7. Second, your brain is a hoarder. I know that sounds funny, but it's totally true. It stores everything, but especially traumatic experiences, because it's attempting to protect you from ever experiencing those things again. And finally, third, your brain is a supercomputer, and you can change its programming. You can delete the stored functions that are no longer serving you and upload what you want to go in their place. I'll go over the specific tools that I use to do just that later in the video. So back to point number 1. Your brain has built-in programs. You may or may not be aware of it, but your current beliefs around love, money, health, relationships, also your relationship to fear, your self-worth, and also your relationship to success and happiness are most likely the same beliefs you had when you were 7 years old. I know, it sounds unbelievable, but it's true. How is this possible? Essentially, most of your subconscious programming happened between the ages of 0 and 7, and unless you have worked diligently on changing those beliefs, they still run in your mind today. Most people are unaware that they have subconscious beliefs running in the background, quietly influencing the way they feel, act, and make decisions. So why is it that our programming from childhood is so long-lasting? Well, Dr. Bruce Lipton puts it this way. He says, the most influential perceptual programming of the subconscious mind occurs from birth through age 7. During that time, the child's brain is recording all sensory experiences as well as learning complex motor programs. Simultaneously, the child's sensory systems are fully engaged, downloading massive amounts of information about the world and how it works. Dr. Lipton goes on to say, it's important to realize that perceptions acquired before the age of 7 become the fundamental subconscious programs that shape the character of an individual's life. During this time of accelerated learning, nature facilitates the enculturation process by developmentally enhancing the subconscious mind's ability to download massive amounts of information. We know this thanks to our study of brainwaves in adults and children. Between 2 and 6 years of age, the child's brain activity operates primarily in the range of theta. While in the theta state, children spend much of their time mixing the imaginary world with the real world. This signifies that their brains are operating at levels below consciousness. Delta and theta brain frequencies define a brain state known as trance, the same neural state that hypnotherapists use to directly download new behaviors into the subconscious minds of their clients. In other words, the first 7 years of a child's life are spent in a hypnotic trance. A child's perceptions of the world are directly downloaded into the subconscious during this time without discrimination and without filters of the analytical self-conscious mind, which doesn't fully exist at the time. Consequently, Our fundamental perceptions about life and our role in it are learned without our having the capacity to choose or reject those beliefs. We were simply programmed. The problem is that we download our perceptions and beliefs about life years before we acquire the ability for critical thinking. When, as young children, we downloaded limiting or sabotaging beliefs, those perceptions or misperceptions become our truths. Your brain is a hoarder. It stores just about everything, but especially traumatic experiences, in an attempt to protect you from ever experiencing those things again. Have you ever seen the television show Hoarders? Well, in many ways, your brain is set up the same way. It wants to keep everything, especially the bad experiences, so it can prevent you from making similar mistakes in the future. The subconscious mind is a massive memory storage unit with virtually unlimited capacity and space. Its function is to store and recall memory forever, so you don't have to keep relearning the same things every day. It's where the blueprint of all your habits, beliefs, memories, learning, and physiological processes are held, so you can easily navigate your world and stay consistent with your programmed identity. The 3 primary ways we downloaded our subconscious blueprint is through words, modeling, and specific major experiences. Most of our learning and beliefs were formed through these primary filters. First, let's address words. Words encompass the verbal programming that happened when you heard adults speaking to each other or to you when you were growing up. If something was repeated enough times, it got stored in your subconscious memory. It helps to ask yourself, what did I hear when I was young? Next, we have modeling. Modeling programming happened when you saw how your parents and other adults around you behaved. To begin to have a greater understanding of what some of your subconscious programs may be, it helps to ask yourself, what did I see when I was young? And finally, we come to specific major experiences. The specific experiences you had while growing up impacted your learning process. Everything that happened in your childhood and early adulthood taught you how to survive, live, and thrive. It may be beneficial to ask yourself, what did I experience when I was young? Speaking of specific major experiences, Dr. Russell Kennedy, also known as the Anxiety MD, puts it this way. The amygdala takes note of anything that has ever hurt you, and then, in concert with the ego, does its damnedest to make sure you never experience that pain again. As an example, if you talked in front of your class in grade school and you made a mistake and the class laughed, your amygdala would take special notice and, in concert with your ego, would send your whole body into fight or flight at the mere thought of talking in front of people again. In Dr. Kennedy's book, Anxiety RX, he talks about the ego dragon, a powerful figure we create in our childhood to protect us from anything that has caused us pain or discomfort. Dr. Kennedy suggests that the amygdala forms and molds our ego dragon. The ego dragon is not smart or nuanced. Its job is to protect you, but in doing so, it overprotects you by intensifying the alarm in your body when you sense anything that even slightly resembles your old wounding. Let's examine other examples of how wounding can happen in childhood. For example, I personally grew up in a home with a mother who had a lot of health problems. I watched as she battled illness after illness and even woke up in the middle of the night at age 10 to see her being taken out of our home by paramedics. If you or a loved one experienced a tragedy such as a car accident or other big injury or loss, you may come away with the unconscious belief that life is dangerous. When I was a little girl, I auditioned for and got the lead role in the play Annie, and I was thrilled. I then broke my leg on the trampoline right at the start of summer and was no longer able to be in the play. This spawned the powerful belief that I can't have what I want. And many times throughout my life, this belief became a self-fulfilling prophecy until I did the inner work necessary to set a new belief pattern. And finally, if you ever heard your parents arguing about money, or if finances were just always tight, resources were scarce, and you felt bad for asking for things, you may have developed thought programs in the vein of, I can't have needs. My needs are a burden. There's not enough to go around, or my personal favorite, not only can I not have what I want, I should also be ashamed for wanting what I want. Many of you may have overheard the important adults in your life praising humility, criticizing wealth, and glamorizing being scrappy or low maintenance. You may have heard phrases like, money is the root of all evil, or money doesn't grow on trees. And what about more money, more problems? Or even, Wow, money really changed them. And don't underestimate how powerfully these simple phrases may have shaped your subconscious programming. One of our deepest survival instincts is to belong. And if we picked up messages throughout childhood that told us that our belonging would be compromised or threatened by wealth or success of any kind, there's a good chance we uploaded some powerful subconscious firewalls to prevent us from doing anything that would put us outside of the pack. That includes being incredibly successful, shocking as it may seem. Now, back to Dr. Kennedy. He explains that in its relentless compulsion to keep you safe, the ego dragon stops you from growth because there is simply no growth without pain, and the ego dragon will die before it lets you feel pain. And when I say that your brain is a hoarder, keep the amygdala and ego in mind. These functions of the mind specifically hold on to trauma as part of their survival plan for you. Now, don't get too stressed about how you were raised or the programming you received as a child. If your life wasn't perfect, and nobody's was, that's okay. The events of your childhood have a big influence on your adulthood, but they don't have to permanently define you. It is possible to rewrite your subconscious programming, which leads us to point 3. Your brain is a supercomputer, and you can change its programming. You can delete the stored functions that are no longer serving you and even upload what you want in their place. Dr. Lipton writes, "By now you may be thinking, gee, this is great. I'm so relieved to find that I am not a victim of my genetics. However, I now appear to be a victim of my programming. What chance does my little 40-bit conscious processor have against the subconscious megacomputer of doom? Where's the good news? The good news is, whatever has been programmed can be deprogrammed and reprogrammed. You can delete the functions that are no longer serving you and upload new operating systems that are empowering, positive, and even healing. Perhaps you want to change your programming around health, money, or relationships and install more empowering beliefs. It is not only possible to change them, it's also possible to do it pretty quickly. Here are the specific tools I use to help you make powerful changes to your subconscious programming. I use a deletion tool, 2 upload tools, and 2 mind maintenance tools. For the deletion tool, we'll be using eye movement processing. The upload tools are hypnosis and affirmation, and the mind maintenance tools are meditation and thought work. But first, let me share my castle analogy to help pull all of these pieces together. Your mind is like a castle. The upper floors of the castle represent your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is the place where you are firmly in control. You have the power to manually change things on these upper levels. You can redecorate the upper rooms, you can paint, you can throw things away, you can add new furnishings, for example, belief structures, developing new habits, etc. However, these upper rooms only comprise 10% of your brain function. And beneath this beautiful, well-planned castle, there is a dungeon basement of epic proportions, plunging hundreds of floors deep and representing the other 90% of your function. This is where all of those stored programs created from ages 0 to 7 are stored, as well as memory storage for your entire life. Every fun, happy, proud, and joyful experience, as well as every heartbreaking, shameful, embarrassing, and harmful experience. Remember when I told you that your brain was a hoarder? Well, this is where that becomes a big problem. Let's go deeper into that for a sec. Remember the amygdala and ego dragon that Dr. Kennedy referenced? Well, I like to think of those guys as 2 guards who are posted at the entrance of your dungeon storage unit. And their primary job is to keep you from messing with their hoard. Remember, these components of your brain believe their job is to keep you safe by pushing you to stay in your lane, aka the upper levels of your mind palace, while they hold on to every limiting belief you've ever adopted into your life survival plan. That's where eye movement processing, EMP for short, comes in. Brain scientists have discovered a way to take what we understand about the REM cycle and use it to access the stored file systems in your subconscious mind. We found that EMP appears to have similar effects to the REM cycle. During REM sleep, the mind and body integrate information, and the brain files that information into the brain's storage system. By mimicking the eye motions and eye stimulation of REM sleep, my clients are able to hack the system and gain access to the stored files that would otherwise be off limits to their conscious minds. In other words, eye movement processing distracts the guards while we smuggle prisoners out of the basement. Prisoners like shame, guilt, fear, anxiety, self-sabotage, self-doubt, anger, hopelessness, deep sadness, grief, or any number of emotions that ultimately work to paralyze you, slow you down, and keep you from moving forward into higher and more healed versions of yourself. If you've heard of EMDR or rapid eye technology, eye movement processing is similar to those methods, however, also different in unique and important ways. I do not offer EMDR, but since it is the most studied and published form of eye work, I'll use some explanations about EMDR from research scientists and doctors to better illustrate how these types of methods work in general. An article from Psychology Today explains it this way. In EMDR, dysfunctional stored memories transition from being isolated and stuck in the limbic system in their raw, original, and state-specific form to the neocortex in the form of semantic memory. This helps them get emotionally and physiologically digested or subsumed into one's existing memory networks and coherent personal narrative. EMDR has been found to soothe the reactive sympathetic nervous system associated with traumatic experiences, directly lowering physiological arousal. This helps explain why eye work was so effective in helping me overcome my constant panic attacks. It helps to soothe the sympathetic nervous system and lowers physiological arousal. So as I mentioned earlier, within just 2 eye movement processing sessions, I was able to begin sleeping through the night for the first time in 6 months. And for anyone who understands the torture of low to no sleep, you understand what a big deal this was for me. But let's get back to the article. EMDR helps people address and work through difficult memories, sensations, and emotions, and resume normal, adaptive, and healthy processing. An experience that may have triggered a negative response may no longer affect them the way that it used to after a treatment. Difficult experiences will likely become less upsetting. Hence, when a memory is processed to completion, it informs but does not control you. You are able to remember it, but do not experience the old sensations, emotions, and maladaptive self-concept in the present. In other words, when a stressful memory is fully worked through in an eye work session, the person will have been taken through a process that disables the trigger and quiets the alarm bells that were previously associated with the memory. You will still have the memory, but no longer have the same highly charged stress response when remembering it. The next tool I use with my clients is hypnosis. Hypnosis is simply a deep state of relaxation where it is possible to give suggestions to your subconscious mind to make changes. Going into hypnotic states allows you to make changes to your core beliefs and habits. Countless people have used hypnosis to quit smoking, focus better, work through trauma, increase test-taking skills, eat healthier, and make more money, among other things. Hypnosis is one of the fastest ways to make changes to the subconscious mind. This is because hypnosis takes the brain back into that theta state. Remember the beginning of our discussion when I quoted Dr. Bruce Lipton? He said, between 2 and 7 years of age, the child's brain activity operates primarily in the range of theta. While in the theta state, delta and theta brain frequencies define a brain state known as trance, the same neural state that hypnotherapists use to directly download new behaviors into the subconscious mind of their clients. In other words, the subconscious programs created during those early years spent in a theta state can be deprogrammed, then reprogrammed by going back into a theta state to address and rewire them. In continuing with my castle analogy, if EMP distracts the guards and smuggles stuck emotions out of the basement, hypnosis could be thought of as a secret entrance that allows you to sneak right into the basement and take a look at what unconscious programs might be holding you back. Hypnosis even allows you to rearrange the furniture down there too. In my client sessions, I use what I call the hypnosis sandwich. First, hypnosis is used as a tool to slip into the basement and take a look around to help you find out what triggers would be useful to address and neutralize. Once the stressful situation has been found, I take you through eye movement processing to help you process and release stored emotion around that situation. We then go back to the hypnosis tool to upload new, positive, empowering, and efficient operating systems that we want to take the place of what has been released. Next, we come to affirmations. So, if hypnosis is how we sneak into the back door of the basement and rearrange the furniture, affirmations are the tool we use to break down the subconscious door. The great thing about affirmations is that you don't need a facilitator to help you implement them. You just need to surround yourself with positive and uplifting statements. Statements that are opposite of any negative programs you were hoping to replace. These statements should always be written in the affirmative. For example, instead of writing something like, "I am never stressed," you would write something like, "I am peaceful and calm," or "I am strong, stable, and settled." Now, affirmations get a pretty bad rap these days, but according to research on the self-affirmation theory, there is MRI evidence that suggests that certain neural pathways are increased when people practice self-affirmation tasks, such as repeating positive affirmations daily. Additionally, self-affirmations have been found to decrease health-deteriorating stress and linked positively to academic achievement. Now, I'm not trying to say that repeatedly telling yourself positive affirmations will magically make your anxiety disappear. However, regular practice and consistency can change the way you see yourself and your anxiety in the long term. It is a very minimal effort practice with powerful benefits. When we immerse ourselves in positive aspirational statements, we can slowly but powerfully pave new neural pathways, and these pathways will become more conducive to helping us reach goals. And let's get to yet another tool, meditation. Meditation is a really great tool to increase your self-awareness and thinking habits. Slowing down, even for just 5 minutes a day, yields tremendous benefits for your mind and body. Just by sitting still and focusing on your breath, you are able to increase self-awareness and change your internal state. Meditation has been well studied and has been shown to help you gain a new perspective on stressful situations, build skills to manage your stress, increase self-awareness, help you focus more on the present, reduce negative emotions, increase imagination and creativity, increase patience and tolerance, which we could all use a little more of today, and it can even lower resting heart rate and resting blood pressure. It also can improve sleep. Some research even suggests that meditation may help people manage the symptoms of conditions such as anxiety, asthma, cancer, chronic pain, depression, heart disease, high blood pressure, irritable bowel syndrome, sleep problems, tension headaches, and many, many more. And finally, we come to our fifth and final tool, thought work. Thought work is the second mind maintenance tool, and it's used to clean up the upper levels of your castle. Some types of thought work are cognitive behavioral therapy, Byron Katie's Loving What Is, also known as The Work, and in the coaching world, you may have heard of it referred to as, quote, the model. Thought work helps us navigate daily challenges with greater clarity. It also gives us tools to recognize when we might be falling into unconscious patterns. I teach thought work one-on-one with my clients, but as they grasp the concepts more fully, they are able to utilize thought work on their own. I especially love meditations, affirmations, and thought work because they can be used on your own time, day after day, without needing help from a facilitator like me. Okay, those are the basics. If you're already on my books, I look forward to seeing you soon. If you're not on my books but interested in scheduling an appointment, all booking inquiries can be made at blackwellcollective@gmail.com. Or you can find more information on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and more.